Welcome back, everyone, to the Music City Surrey Showcase. This is the series where we highlight the immense talent we have here in the city of Surrey. My name is Keely Rammage-Scott, and speaking of immense talent, today we are joined in the FP studio by the incredible Josh Bogert. Josh, thanks for coming out.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so you've been in music for a long time now.
Yeah, it's been a big part of my life, music, since I was a kid. And I guess you could say a while.
Most recently, I know that you came back to help us out with the Basement to Stage program, which is an FP program that is taking place in the city of Surrey. Tell me a little bit more about your experience with that to start off.
Yeah, it was incredible to, I'm just so happy that I was invited to be a part of that. It's always amazing seeing the youth in our city and how creative they are, and being able to help facilitate that and that learning about music in a fun space.
Yeah. So what was it like for you growing up then? What kind of mentorship did you have around? Because I know personally, I'm so grateful for all of the arts programs that the city had when I was growing up and getting into music as a youth too, and arts in general. So tell me like a bit what your journey looked like when you first got into music and then how it brought you to where you are now.
Yeah, I was very fortunate that, right off the start, I just had the support of my parents. They put my brother and I in violin lessons when I was 4 years old and he was 6 years old. And it was really, that was the start of everything. I became very passionate about, I would try and figure out songs that I heard from movies and stuff on the violin and grew this passion for creativity that way. And then as I got older, the city as well of Surrey, and just like I live in South Surrey, so that area as well, there were open mics and things like that, where I kind of got started performing, and I had the opportunity to take instrument lessons and be in choirs and those kinds of things. And then, of course, Band-Aid was the program at the time when I was a teenager in Surrey, and I found that so helpful. I went a couple of years, and it was just such a cool space to kind of get a feel for what the industry is actually like, if that makes sense. For
sure, yeah. Wow, violin at 4 years old?
Yeah.
That is an insane undertaking. It's such a hard instrument.
Yeah, well, I feel like it was a good thing that I started on the violin, because then, because it's so hard, every other instrument that I picked up was like, oh, this is like not too difficult, right? As I picked up guitar, I'm like, oh, it has frets. That makes things so easy.
Yeah, there you go. And then you add 2 strings and boom, you're golden.
Exactly.
How many instruments do you play then?
I don't know the exact number. I can play like violin. Well, I can't really play violin anymore. That's the thing. Like if I practiced it for a little bit, I maybe could, but yeah. Definitely guitar, drums, a little bit of keys. I played saxophone through high school, but really I don't use them as much as I used to, because most of what I do is production, and it's all digital anyways. So it's very much like more of a, because my music is pop. I'm using more production skill rather than instrument playing skill these days.
Yeah. So how did you break into that pop scene then?
It's funny because when I decided I wanted to be a musician and a songwriter and an artist, I was like 10 or 11. And at the time I wanted to be in country, because that's what I grew up listening to. My parents put that on in the car, and that's, all my favorite artists at the time, Brad Paisley, Zach Brown Band, Rascal Flatts, they were all country artists. And so that's what I wanted to be. And then I think it was Ed Sheeran started to become big when I was in like grade 8.
Right.
And that was like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. And it bridged it for me. And then I got into Justin Bieber when he released Purpose, and that was like my intro to electronic.
Nice. So A-Team came out, and then Purpose dropped, and then suddenly you're pulled into the pop scene.
Yeah, and then it was like Chainsmokers and like all sorts of
right.
And then my brother started DJing. It was EDM, and then anyways, there's a lot of different things happened.
So do you produce your own music then, or do you work with producers too?
Yeah, so I produce my own music. I do my own mixing and mastering as well. And then I'll also do that for other artists, as well as my own projects. How'd
you first get into that?
When I first started writing songs, I was like 13, and I had written a few songs, and I was like, okay, I guess I could take my guitar and play them for people, but like I wanted to be able to send people my songs. Yeah. And so I just figured out how to record a really simple track, and then that kind of grew as I wrote more songs. I wanted to produce them more, and then I guess trial and error learned how to do it.
Yeah. and it becomes so much more like less expensive to release your own music once you learn how to do it yourself too.
Totally, 100%. Because it's like it takes my time to like create a song, but at the end of the day, it's like, and of course, there's the expense of the gear and all that stuff. It's not cheap,
right.
But a lot cheaper than it used to be.
Yeah.
And definitely cheaper than hiring a producer for every single song. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
And it's an added skill set to be able to bring that to a collaborative session too.
100%.
Like if you're collaborating with another artist, which I know that you've done a lot. Tell me like a bit about your favorite collaborative projects.
Yeah, one of my favorites was I did a song. We released it with Monster Cat. It's called "Sit Like a Flamingo," and it's with Half an Orange and DeCero. And that was such a cool process because it's interesting because the way it's like released, people might not know that I produced any of it, right? Because it's like I have a verse on the song, and the way it's billed, like there's no kind of mention because you don't know like who was involved in the production, but I produced quite a bit of that song along with DeCero and Half an Orange, and it was cool to work with them and have their takes on like, you know, what we were doing and kind of play back and forth on that energy.
That's one of my favorite things about music though, is going up and looking up who was behind the song that's not listed on the initial credits, right?
100%.
Like you see an album cover and you see the names attached to that album cover and you don't realize that there's so many more people behind the scenes, and it's fun to find out, okay, who's been working on this to get inspiration. Like to give you an example, I listened to Ghost by Justin Bieber for the first time way after it came out.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a John Bellion track.
Yeah, 100%.
And I knew it was a John Bellion track before I even went and I looked it up. And then I was like, of course it's a John Bellion track.
I have a funny story about that too, because
Yeah.
I knew when Anyone came out, I was like, this is John Bellion. And I clicked on it and looked at it. And then the next single he dropped was Hold On. And I was listening to it, and I obviously knew that I got the feeling he was doing the whole album. But there's a note in the second verse that's not Justin's voice. It's John Bellion's voice.
The fact that you're able to pick that out
and
is
I was
so
like,
cool too.
oh my gosh, I just heard that. Did I mistake that? No,
Hang on,
I went
let me
back
go
and
back
looked. It was like
and check.
100%. Yeah, they cut in his voice for like one note in
I
the
love
second
that.
verse. Yeah.
That's so fun. Yeah. Like, and just looking at the writing of that song too, I'm like, John Bellion wrote that. I know for a fact.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's why I like it that much, because I love John Bellion. I think he's an amazing writer,
too.
amazing producer.
Yes, absolutely. One of my biggest inspirations for sure. So.
Cool. So who are more of your influences then, would you say?
Yeah, when it comes to production and melodies, definitely John Bellion. Lyrically, also melodically, I would say JP Saxe is a massive influence for me as well.
Cool.
I think his poetry is just like, I haven't found very many other songs that like match that level for me, just in terms of like what moves me the most.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think especially like the last, like I thought it couldn't get better, and then he's like released a few songs recently, and I'm like, oh my gosh,
This is where the bar is.
yeah, totally. And he just seems to keep setting it higher. So so yeah, he's a big influence for me. Illenium was a huge influence of like how I learned to produce music by listening to, because I just feel like his production is so polished and like his mixes are so on that that was a big thing for me. Like the technical side, I learned a lot from listening to his stuff.
How else did you learn to produce music? Are you mostly self-taught or?
Yeah, pretty much. Like
cool.
It was a mix of just like trying to figure stuff out, and then like YouTube helped a bit, but I found like YouTube was good for the basics, and I could figure out what was what and where the buttons were and everything. But when it came to like really specific situations, like, oh, I'm using a super saw, and for some reason when I sum to mono, it disappears. And I'm like, I can't figure out how to make this sound good in my mix if it's like going to a club or whatever. It's like, I can't Google that. You know what I mean? So it was like trial and error.
Especially when you're in a specific DAW. It's
100%,
like,
yeah.
I have an answer for this in Pro Tools, but if you're in Logic, it's
100%.
not going to work for you.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, that can be the case sometimes for sure. So yeah, and it turned out to be like, just because that problem took me so long to figure out, I'm remembering now, it was mid-side EQ. So I like could EQ the sides separately from the mid channel. Yeah. And when I soloed it, I was like, oh, they don't match. And so I EQ'd them to match. And then when I subbed to mono, it sounds great. So, and it was a fluke. Like I just was trying so many different things. It probably took me 2 months to figure that out.
Just because you kept stepping away from it and coming back to it, and
trying to figure out over multiple songs too. Right? I released songs where the mono mix wasn't perfect, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the thing. It's like just constantly, I mean, even still, I'm still figuring stuff out and getting better every time I release a song or produce a song. So
yeah. When you get stuck with producing or songwriting for that, is it more helpful for you to step away from the problem and come back to it? Or do you like to just push through and try and figure it out in one go?
I would say both things that you said are right. Like, it's probably better for me to step away. But that being said, I do like to sit in it and get myself really frustrated.
Right? I'm the same way.
I feel like I can't leave until it's fixed.
I get so
and
stubborn.
Then, so I spend 6 hours trying to figure something out. And then I step away, and the next day I come back and I'm like, oh, that works.
Yeah.
I wonder if I just stepped away sooner if I would have figured it out.
Here's the real question, though. Did you even notice that those 6 hours had gone by, or are you just kind of stuck in this time vortex where all you could think about is the problem?
Yeah, totally. I get in such like a flow state that I'm like, I always say, because I love eating.
Yeah.
The only time that I forget to eat is when I'm like making a song.
So then that must really show how much making music is important to you. Because if you love eating, then does music come above eating?
Because eating's pretty high up there for me personally. There's cooking and then eating, the cooking, and then music's like just above that.
That's awesome. I love that. Cool. So I guess, what did your songwriting process, how did it change over the years? Because you've been in this game for such a long time. What did your evolution look like? What was your kind of transformation from enjoying country music to moving to pop?
Yeah. Too? I mean, that's super interesting. I think for the first couple of years that I was trying to do the artist thing, I was doing open mics and stuff. Mm-hmm. I didn't actually write songs. So I was like covering country songs. And just playing shows, but I didn't really realize that my passion for writing songs yet. And I think I actually started listening to a guy named Andrew Allen, who is from BC. He lives in the Okanagan, and part of his brand was as a songwriter. And this was just before I got into Ed Sheeran and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, he writes his own songs, and I could tell the lyrics were more personal than maybe some other artists. And so I was like, I want to do that. And so my first song that I ever wrote was a complete ripoff of one of his songs, as it is. And then what's really full circle about that is I recently just finished producing and mixing and mastering his album.
No way.
And I wrote like 4 of the songs on it with him.
And
he's written
cool.
half the songs on my upcoming album with me.
That's almost meant to be.
Yeah, it's really cool because he was kind of the reason I started writing music, and now like we work together all the time.
That's the epitome of what is meant to be will be.
100%. Yeah. And so from there, it was just like, I mean, I started writing songs by myself. I think what really changed in my process over the years was like discovering co-writing and how awesome that is. And nowadays, I more often than not, the songs that I'm finishing and completing are songs that I've co-written. Yeah.
There's so many artists out there too. And having someone else's perspective can be such a great way to improve a record.
Yes.
Yeah.
I totally think so. Yeah.
Cool. So on top of music, I know that you also did acting for a while. And then I think you said that you're going to get back into it. You said you were taking an acting class again just before we started filming this. Tell me a little bit about acting and music and how the two kind of went together for you.
Yeah. So, I mean, music is the reason that I got into acting. It wasn't something that I wanted to, I never was like, oh, I want to take drama class. And I didn't at all through school. And then, it was through like a connection with my voice teacher, had like a student or a previous student that was becoming an agent and needed clients. Cool. And they were like, sometimes they want kids that can play, guitar or whatever for commercials. And I was like, okay, that I can try it out. And then I was very fortunate. My 4th audition was for a TV series lead that I booked.
That's cool.
And I did 2 seasons of that show. And so it was kind of like, I'd never acted before. Cool. I was on set with like a full crew and everything. And I remember my first day, I was like, what is going on? But it was a sink or swim kind of situation. So I tried to figure out how to do it. And it was definitely just an incredible experience to be on that show. And then from there, I kept auditioning and doing all sorts of stuff. But I found I think it was about 2 years ago that I stopped, just because I got so frustrated with, I was auditioning and, you know, not hearing back and never booking anything. And I kind of think it maybe had to do with my age, just because I was in that in-between spot where it's like I couldn't play high school anymore.
Yeah.
But I couldn't play actual high school, but I wasn't old enough for what they were looking for like Riverdale High School.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like,
oh
or adult roles, right?
Yeah.
So, I was kind of like in this weird spot, and I decided, you know what? I just want to focus on, that was kind of when I started writing my album, and that's, I was just like, I want to focus on that for a bit. So I stopped auditioning. But yeah, I've just literally a couple weeks ago started an acting class again, and I think I might, start auditioning. So we'll see.
Yeah. It's really fun how creative elements can overlap like that, and they can bring us a whole new perspective on things.
Yeah, totally. Well, and that show that I was on was a musical. Like, my character was a musician, and I got to play instruments and sing and all that stuff. So it was very fitting for me, and I liked that it kind of married the two. Yeah, for sure.
So going back to writing your album after that, what was that like?
It's been in so many iterations too. Like, I had an album that I'd kind of written, and then I was like, I ended up changing it. I was like, I want to go in more of a pop direction. It was very electronic. And I was like, I just felt like it wasn't really me. Like, I had an album ready, and I felt like it was what I thought people would think was cool. Yeah. And I was like, that's not what I want to do. So I started over, and that's when this album kind of came to be. It was much more pop, much more like, I think lyric focused rather than like cool production tricks and stuff. I mean, there's obviously, I'm producing all the songs to kind of where I feel they need to be, but not like over the top. Yeah. And I think it's more focused on like who I am, and like the subjects of the songs, I think, really tell a story about my personality. And so, yeah.
I feel like if there's one consensus we've had from artists that have sat in this chair this season, it's that everybody's agreed that you need to make music for you first, and then the right people will like your music.
Yeah, I think so. And I've heard that so many times. Yeah. And I think I have to believe that, because really, if you make music for someone else that you think they'll like and it does do well, it's like you might make some money, but are you going to be enjoying it? I don't know. Yeah. So I think it's more important to enjoy the process so that you can keep doing it for long enough to make money.
Yeah, especially for those of us that start out doing it because we love it.
100%. Yeah.
So you have so much experience in music, so I know that you're going to be able to answer this next question that we've been asking everybody this season and last season. It's kind of the one thing that we ask everyone that comes on the show is that what would you give as a piece of advice to a young artist that's just starting out in music? And I know that you've just recently been a mentor with the Basement to Stage program, so you might have some experience already with giving people some advice.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think the biggest thing when I was starting out was playing shows. Like, there's no better way to gain experience in the music industry and how it works than to like just start going to open mics and like just going up on stage and as many opportunities as you can. I mean, the year before I booked the TV show, I played 100 shows in 1 year. Just like open mics, private business parties, small festivals in like White Rock, South Surrey. And just like, little things here and there, but like every weekend. And so, I think I had the most growth right off the bat from doing that. So I think there's an immense amount of value that comes from just like taking those opportunities.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that. And thanks so much for being here with us today.
Yeah, thank you
we
for having
really
me.
enjoyed chatting with you, and you're going to play a song for us next.
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Super looking forward to that. And where can people find you online?
I'm on Instagram. It's probably the most active. Instagram and TikTok are the most active. Instagram's at Josh Bogert, like no spaces. TikTok's at Josh_Bogert. Everything's linked on joshbogert.com. Cool. So that's kind of the hub. You can go from there, and everything's on there. Spotify, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all of it.
Awesome. Cool. And you're going to play a song for us next.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, can't wait for that. Thank you so much again for being here. And thank you guys for tuning into another episode of the Music City Surrey Showcase. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and we will see you in the next one.
used to walk you to your door to make sure you got home safe. Held you and kissed you on the porch, my arms around your waist. Used to drive on home, and I'd think of you with that smile on your face. I heard he always drops you off at the stop sign on 16th. Your folks don't know you're with him, and you're hoping that they never meet. Saw you walking home by the faded lights on the side of the street. And you say you don't care, but I know you didn't think he'd be the one that you'd go to. Never thought you'd be scared when I told you that you are the one that I'd hold forever. But nice guys finish last, and I'm the nice guy you never gave a chance. I used to give you everything, I'd give you all of me. How'd we go from every day to you saying you can't talk to me? Now I drive on home, wishing you were still in the passenger seat. And you say you don't care, but I know you didn't think he'd be the one that you'd go to. Never thought you'd be scared when I told you that you are the one that I'd hold forever. But nice guys finish last, and I'm the nice guy you never gave a chance. And you say you don't care, but I know you didn't think he'd be the one that you'd go to. Never thought you'd be scared when I told you that you are the one that I'd hold forever. But nice guys finish last, and I'm the nice guy you never gave a chance.